Before we jump into today's video, be sure to head on over to rrgsnacks.com, our online concession stand that has an assortment of goodies, including our brand new chicken and waffles popcorn. In the mid-90s, network executives found themselves in the middle of a sticky situation. Profits were dwindling due to what the New York Times described as primetime television's racial divide. Seinfeld was one of the top-rated programs in white households, but it ranked 50th in black homes. On the flip side, The Steve Harvey Show ranked number 1 in black households, but it came in at number 118 in white homes. The issue was that black people weren't interested in comedies with all-white casts, and white people weren't tuning into shows with predominantly black casts either. So, what was the solution? After some brainstorming, networks decided to appeal to black and white viewers by creating shows with an integrated cast like The Hughleys, which was co-executive produced by Chris Rock and premiered on ABC in September 1998. The show starred comedian D.L. Hughley as Daryl, the owner of a vending machine company. Elise Neal played his career-focused wife, Yvonne. Ashley Monique Clark played their daughter, Sydney. DJ Daniels was cast as their son, Michael. Eric Allen Kramer and Marietta DePrima were their neighbors, Dave and Sally Rogers. And John Hinton played the role of their friend, Millsap Morris. The program was based on D.L.'s real-life experiences.
I moved from L.A. to West Hills. Yep. And it was the first time I'd ever lived around anybody but black people.
Viewers fell in love with the storyline about the upper middle class black family relocating from South LA to an all-white suburban neighborhood in West Hills, California. As the family attempted to assimilate into their new surroundings, they faced racial issues head-on with impeccable comedic timing.
I'm playing this new game called golf.
Golf? What, you trying to get your ghetto pass revoked?
At the time, The Hughleys was the only black sitcom on ABC. While it experienced moderate success, critics weren't amused. A journalist for The Washington Post wrote, "The characters white and black are too obsessed with their racial identities, and the male lead, stand-up comic D.L. Hughley, is a loud-mouthed bore." Some critics also took offense to a joke in the pilot episode when D.L.'s character talks about becoming white because he paid his bills on time. Despite very little promotion, the show held its own in the ratings. Instead of capitalizing on its success in the fall of 1999, ABC made a fatal judgment call by moving the show from Tuesday to Friday night. Some jokingly called that time slot Black Friday. The show was set to compete against The Steve Harvey Show on the WB and Bill Cosby's CBS show Kids Say the Darndest Things. Fridays were also considered one of the least watched nights of the week, also known as where most shows lived out their final days. So basically, The Hughleys was set up to fail. D.L. told the Tampa Bay Times that he was angry when he first heard about the schedule change, but he was hoping that all 3 shows could survive and do well. But as predicted, the show's ratings dwindled in the Friday night time slot, and ABC canceled the program after season 2, which was in April 2000. In a shocking twist, less than a year after giving The Hughleys the boot, ABC premiered a brand new black sitcom called My Wife and Kids, starring Damon Wayans and Tisha Campbell. The lead character in My Wife and Kids was played by a black comedian who portrayed a successful business owner living in an upper middle class suburb with his career-driven wife and beautiful children. Wait a minute. That sounds a lot like The Hughleys, don't it? Why would they remove one comedy about a black family and replace it with a similar show? Although there were some distinct differences, the similarities were too much to ignore. Both shows were set in suburban communities, with the husbands being business owners and their wives having professional careers. Both shows depicted combative but ultimately warm family units as well. Sure, the actors were different, but some of the creative forces behind The Hughleys, including one of the show's directors and a producer, were hired to work on My Wife and Kids. In other words, ABC had some explaining to do. And then came some more shocking information. The Hughleys was produced by a small independent company called Greenblatt Jonalari Studies. We'll refer to them as GJS for short. The LA Times reported that while The Hughleys was still on ABC, the network approached GJS about developing a show for Damon Wayans. GJS ultimately passed on the project, partially because they were still working on The Hughleys, and they didn't want to jeopardize The Hughleys' chances to succeed on ABC. And here at RRG, we gotta give props to GJS for having some integrity. After getting turned down, ABC reportedly decided to produce My Wife and Kids through Touchstone Television, which is a division of the Walt Disney Company. And guess what network the Walt Disney Company owns? ABC, of course. So did ABC rip off the idea of the Hughleys and repackage it under My Wife and Kids under their own production company? Fans deserved to know the answer, but on the night before My Wife and Kids premiered, network execs failed to respond to repeated requests for interviews. But one person who wasn't about to hold back was D.L. himself. During a news conference for national television critics, he said he confronted one of ABC's co-chairmen and told him, "You're doing my show all over again. The only difference is I'm not in it. I'm insulted by that because we did the show that was based on my life." The LA Times was finally able to get an answer from a producer who told them that The Hughleys was dropped because ABC wanted to move away from airing family comedies on certain nights, and they didn't have another time slot available for the show. Sources within ABC maintain that My Wife and Kids was a completely different show and wasn't a ripoff of The Hughleys. Thankfully, The Hughleys got picked up by UPN and made its debut on its new network in September 2000 on Monday nights. After settling into his new home, D.L. was ready to forgive and forget. He told Entertainment Weekly that he was a big fan of Damon's talent, and he wished him much success. D.L. added, "Damon is more mainstream, so I think he can be more successful than I was there. I just hope he gets more support than I did at ABC." Unfortunately for D.L., The Hughleys only lasted for 2 seasons on UPN before it was canceled for good. Damon finally addressed all the drama in 2001 during an interview with TV Guide. He said he could see why D.L. was in his feelings about the whole situation. Damon said, "You know, I understand he was hurt, and I think because my show was the next one coming along, he, for some reason, blamed me." Damon went on to say that if it made D.L. feel any better, then he would gladly be the, quote, bad guy that took his idea. He also said that he would allow the audience to be the final judge to decide whether My Wife and Kids was a copycat version of the Hughleys. ABC canceled My Wife and Kids in 2005 after 5 seasons because the network felt the show had run its course. Now that the dust has settled and both comedians have moved on to other projects, we're unsure where their relationship stands as of this video, or if they ever had one to begin with. But what we do know is that the comedy circuit is a very tight-knit community, and despite D.L. following 1,466 people on Instagram, Damon ain't one of them. Ciao. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to follow us on TikTok for more content, like daily news updates and mini documentaries. And thanks for watching RRG.